space I found through open call. I applied last year. I kind of, think about this idea of hiding. I finally came out of hiding last year. It was like a New Year's resolution. I was like, I have got to start showing my work more. I can't just keep making all this work and never showing it. Like, I have work to show and I feel good about showing it. So I went on an application rampage. I set this kind of parameter, almost like a game for myself, to see if I could apply to 30 things a month. And I think I only made it to 15. And I think I only lasted 3 months. I was going to try 6 months. I only made it 3 months. But because my thinking was, if I applied to 30 things a month for 6 months, that would probably cause a pretty significant shift, right? It's kind of an insane proposition in a way. And it did cause a pretty significant shift. I had more shows than I'd ever had. The reason I had to stop is because I got so busy with the shows, I couldn't manage, and I didn't have any more work to show. Like, everything was out. So this is something that I found through that. So it was productive. I learned a lot. It's helped me kind of focus my energy, because that was really just a grab all. Any show I was in, I would do it. Wherever it was, whatever, I didn't care, I'm in, I'll do it. It was like all yes. Like, it's all good, yes, I'll do it. And now it's helped me realize how to focus the energy. What shows are really going to be beneficial for everyone involved. And it also has helped me become much less neurotic about my writing. Like, I just have to get it. It's got to be clear and it's got to be done. And I can't spend so much time like staring at a computer screen and feeling like, is that the right word? Is that not the right word? It's just, it has to be clear. And the most important thing is to hit the send button. I had someone say to me, if you're not hearing no, like every day, you're not applying to enough stuff. Like, you should be hearing no all the time. And so once I started getting a lot of rejections, I was like, okay, this is a good sign. I'm applying to enough stuff. I always loved drawing portraits, but I was very shy about it. I literally would hide everything under my bed because I was not extroverted in that way. And it's been kind of interesting to me because over the past couple months, maybe 6 months, I have finally returned to portraiture. Mm-hmm. And it's been a long break. I haven't really done it for about probably, 10 or 15 years, since I was really, a teenager. And it is interesting to think about the things that I was naturally drawn to and interested as a child, and to look at why I rejected it for so long. I think because I was so interested in it as a child, I felt like it was maybe childish to continue. Like, I needed to develop more, and I wanted to be this abstract painter and do all this stuff. And now I'm finally kind of looking and saying, this is really what I'm into, It was kind of a moment where I realized that that's what I was looking at. I was making a kind of self-portraiture. I've been doing these drawings of hair for a couple of years, and they were a type of self-portraiture, but I wasn't addressing portraiture directly. I was kind of circling around it, and I was starting to rub up against it in terms of some very formal things like composition. And I felt like the content was there, but in some formal ways, I was starting to have a little bit of some issues trying to expand the work and making it grow more. And then I looked at the research that I was doing, and it was all portraiture. And I would go to museums and galleries and look at work and be thinking, I wish I could do that type of work. It makes so much sense to me. And then in that moment, I was just like, what am I doing? Why am I not doing that? And now that I have switched, so it's been very recent, within like the past, since I started this residency, it's not that, all my problems are solved and I'm still grappling with, themes and concepts and formal issues, but I feel like there's a much longer continuum. I can see the work going on much longer, whereas the work I was doing before, which I'm still interested in making, I felt like it was always just like the next step and the next step and trying to get to that next step, and I couldn't really see the trajectory of where it was going to go. It felt more limited. I think it's also, thinking about the art that I was exposed to as a child, because I grew up in West Virginia. I wasn't exposed to a lot of contemporary art. It was mostly prints that we had in our house, and it was a lot of like Van Gogh prints and things like that. And so when I went to school and was studying art, I got this idea like, oh my gosh, that stuff's so cheesy and so corny, and I got this kind of intellectualized academic view of those types of artists like Manet and Monet, and it's so passé. And now I'm revisiting it, and it's not, to me. It's the roots of modernism, and kind of looking at it now with a different perspective and understanding why I was interested in it and why it made such an impression on me. Not only because it was what I was exposed to, but I am connected to it in a way of portraiture and image making. And I don't want to think about being like a late bloomer, because I think that's kind of like maybe it has a negative connotation, but when I went to school for undergrad, I was studying fine art, but I was, typical, I was very unfocused. And then I spent, I moved to the beach in South Carolina, and I spent maybe 6 or 7 years really kind of making art, but also just being young and living at the beach and having fun and working in restaurants. And so I wasn't as focused. I think I felt like being an artist wasn't really a possibility. It seemed so outside of my life and my world and my friends. I didn't have any friends that were artists. And so when I finally decided that I was going to go to grad school to get an MFA, I kind of was looking for not only a way to get deeper into making art, but also a change of life. I needed to get out of, I felt like that was I had exhausted that. I didn't want to work in restaurants anymore. I didn't want to do that. And so when I went to grad school, I kind of went in thinking, oh, I could do this and then I could be an art teacher. Even then, I wasn't open to really being an artist. No disrespect, I'm still a teacher, no disrespect to that, but it's only been within the past couple of years that I'm saying, no, I want to be an artist. It's taken me a long time to even say the words, I'm an artist. I think it helps too to be someplace, like New York, and in a community like this where you're around other artists, and it doesn't seem like such a eccentric thing to be doing. You're around people that are really in it and committed to it and living it. And so that helps, a lot. You're not like the one eccentric artist friend among a group of accountants. And so when I moved to the Hudson Valley, it was the first time I had ever been in this kind of like liberal, progressive area, and I was amazed by it. I was just like, wow, this is so great. And so that really made me fall in love with that part of New York and New York in general. I started working on the hair drawings, I guess maybe around 2015. It was a long kind of progression. When I was in grad school, I was still struggling a lot with trying to figure out what I was doing. And after grad school, the same. And I think there's a lot of pressure, at least the pressure that I put on myself. I felt like when I got done with grad school, I was supposed to have figured it out, right? I was supposed to have this language established and know my vocabulary, however you want to say it in art speak. And so, whatever. I was very confused because I wasn't connected with the work that I was making. And I think it goes back to this idea of portraiture, because I was trying so hard to be a certain type of artist. I never had a really true connection, and so I spent the years after grad school still searching, and I think the hair was a kind of pivotal moment for me because it's when I first returned to observation, and that was really key for me because I just work better from observation. It started off just observational. I was interested in it as a form, and I was interested in it as a technical kind of obstacle because it's very unique in the way that it reflects light. And so I was really trying to study the foundation of observational drawing and light and mark making, and so I became very interested in that. And then once I started making the drawings, and looking at them, I was very drawn to the kind of, well, the care is so loaded for us, you know what I mean? It comes with such a narrative about kind of beauty and vanity and, you know, sexism and internalized sexism and all of that. And to see that disembodied, to me, I felt like the drawings were, you know, so it was that thing where I looked at it and then I was like, wow, maybe this is what I need to be thinking about with my work, or this is what the work is trying to show me. And so that was I felt more connected to that, because that's something that is not outside of myself. Those are things I have experience with, whether I'm conscious of it or was conscious of it at that time. So that is where the work then started moving into, is this kind of conversation about beauty, loss of beauty, whether it's taken or sacrificed, or, you know, kind of internalized sexism and those types of subject matter. I start to get into this kind of premeditated, where I feel like, oh, does this fit my theme, right? Oh, and then it's kind of dead in a way. And it's very complicated, I think, especially with contemporary art, the structure where you have to apply to things and write about your work, and it has to kind of all be very tight. And so I'm always thinking, oh, how am I going to write about this work? Like, how am I going to apply to things with this work if I don't know exactly what it's about? And for me, I think that does create a little bit of, it makes things contrived. So I try to not fall into that, but it's hard for me because I'm always thinking, like, how am I going to write about this before it's made, or as I'm making it, rather than a year later looking at it and saying, oh, that's what was going on there. And also, I think, you know, it's tricky with something, say, like social media or something like that. If you post something and you get a lot of good feedback, it's very hard to not want to follow that thread, you know, and be like, oh, people like it. But that can be a very slippery slope, because am I still interested in making that, you know? Am I more interested in having people like it, or am I more interested in making it? Ideally both, but I think, you know, like with the hair drawings where I am now, I am interested in them. I don't want to abandon them, but I do want to pursue other things. The portraits I started at the I started a little bit before doing the research, and then I worked on them primarily at the residency, and I worked a little bit when I came back. And then since I came back, I've been doing just some smaller kind of washes, and doing mostly a lot of copies of other paintings. I'm really into this idea of copying right now. I think it comes obviously from this, but it's kind of a copy of the same painting. But this idea of how much we consume and the history of copying in fine art, everybody copies, you know? And I think it, again, goes back to this first conversation that we were having about finally realizing I don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like, I don't have to come with my own thing. Like, I live within a context of art history and art making. It seems so obvious. Like, it seems so simple to just realize it now. I feel ridiculous, but I am finally looking and just saying, what can I steal from them? What can I copy from them as a way to move into this new work? I was looking at artists like Ronnie Horn and her project, You Are the Weather, this is a direct kind of riff off of that. And also thinking about Andy Warhol, you know, like the Marilyn portraits or the Liz Taylor portraits, that kind of repetition. So I was really looking at, rather than feeling like, oh, I can't do that because they did that. You know, I can't make the same painting multiple times because it's already been done. I kind of had a switch in my mind and said, well, they did it, so I can do it. Why not? And that was kind of the light switch for me.